The NFL draft countdown is finally in single digits and it is almost here. It has been a very long draft process through COVID and through everything else, from draft rumors that seem absolutely absurd to more guys running in the 4.3s than ever before, and already through multiple trades that have already occurred. It has been an extremely busy past few months, and lost in all of that have been comparisons for prospects. While prospects have been talked about and dissected more than ever, it seems the pro comps for players has been down and there hasn't been too much discussion revolving around that in this draft. And that brings us to the topic of today's video, as we're going to discuss several wide receiver prospects and their NFL pro player comparison. We're going to discuss why they compare to that player, what similarities they have, and what type of statistical impact they have at the next level. But before we get started, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as each only take a second to do and it would be very much appreciated. Now let's begin. And we're going to start today's video with Florida wide receivers Kadarius Toney. Kadarius is making his debut on the channel today, as we have not formally discussed him yet, but boy is he an electric player with the ball in his hands. Toney's teammate, Kyle Pitts, the offensive weapon Kyle Pitts, gets a lot of attention and praise from scouts and analysts, and understandably so, but Kadarius is a great player in his own rights. In his final year at Florida, he had over 1,100 yards and 11 total touchdowns. Now, notice I said 1,100 total yards and not just receiving yards, and that would be because he is in his own rights an offensive weapon, and Florida used him all over the field during his time there. He finished his collegiate career with 580 yards rushing, and if you watch Toney during his time at Florida, you know he is electric and is a home run threat every time he touches the football. I don't want to be basic and say, oh, because he's a home run threat and under 6 feet or just right at 6 feet and they use him in more ways than just a receiver, he's automatically Tyree Kill, because he's not. Toney is very agile and is by every definition a quick-twitched athlete, but he is not that quick, and that's not a knock on him because very few people in the entire world are as quick-twitched as Tyree Kill is. Instead, Kadarius' NFL player comparison to me is Percy Harvin a decade later. Percy was used in a lot of the ways Kadarius was in 2020, and the Vikings used him in a lot of those same ways in 2009 on his way to a Rookie of the Year campaign. Toney's ability to start and stop on a dime is very similar to Harvin's was, and ironically, both went to Florida and both wore number 1 during their time there. Now, to be clear, that doesn't make them more alike as a player comp, it is what I described it as, ironic. But when you turn on Toney's tape and see how many ways that he can get the ball, his ability to stop and start on a dime, and how great of an athlete he is at 6 foot, 190 pounds, it's impossible to not see the next Percy Harvin. And here is to hoping Kadarius stays healthy and does not have to deal with career-altering migraine headaches the same way Percy Harvin unfortunately did. And next we go up north to discuss the University of Minnesota's receiver Rashad Bateman. Rashad is a 3-year player and peaked in 2019 statistically when he had a 60-catch, 1,200-yard, 11-touchdown season for the Gophers. He played in 5 games in 2020, and in those games had 3 100-yard games and 2 touchdowns in a COVID-shortened year. A few months ago I spent a whole video breaking down Bateman's game, and it is no surprise to hear a week before the draft that I still love Rashad Bateman. According to NFL.com, he is 6 feet tall, 190 pounds with 33-inch arms and 9.5-inch hands, and despite being nearly the same size as Kadarius Toney, these two players are nothing alike on the football field, and it shows with tape. And to be clear, there is absolutely nothing wrong with that, as Michael Thomas is a lot different than a prime Antonio Brown, and both are still consistent, or in Antonio's case was a consistent 100+ reception a year player and continuously stresses defenses out. Bateman is an outside receiver at the next level, where Toney is an inside slot guy, and I don't want to say a gadget type player because he is a lot more than just a gadget, but a do-everything H-back kind of guy. Bateman, unlike Toney, had 0 carries during his time at the University of Minnesota, and despite being, I don't want to say just 6 feet tall, but despite being 6 feet tall, Bateman plays a lot bigger than what he is listed at, and that is the reason for the just being 6 feet tall comment. If you watch his tape and see how he moves and goes up and gets balls and how he high points the football, you would think he is 6'2 or 6'3 like I thought he was at a point, and that is a big reason why I like him so much. He plays so much bigger than what he actually is, and not only that, but he has shown at times he can be shifty in terms of his breaks and cuts in the middle of his route and create solid separation at the collegiate level. Now, Bateman will never be a 6'5 Calvin Johnson make a catch over 3 defenders type player, which again, that's fine because Calvin is a one-of-one first ballot Hall of Famer, but he will be a consistent move the chains type player for the foreseeable future. If you're a fan of my channel, you know who I wanted to go to in the worst way, Baltimore that is, and he reminds me of a young Allen Robinson. Robinson is by nearly every definition a move the chains type player, and you see that in Bateman's game, and with Lamar needing a receiver and a guy he can consistently rely on, this is one of my favorite fits in the entire 2021 draft class. Now we get into the big three to discuss the two Alabama receivers and of course the LSU receiver. The first one to discuss is 2020 Heisman winner DeVonta Smith. Smitty finished his college career in 2020 with the cherry on top, a 117 catch, 1,800 yard, 24 total touchdown season, and by the way, if that's not enough, Alabama also won a national championship. He is without a doubt one of the most accomplished players in this class, and the Heisman Award and the national championship proves it. He very easily could have declared after a successful 2019 season in which he had over 1,200 yards and 14 touchdowns behind both Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs. So needless to say, the hype behind DeVonta is very real. He is 6 foot, 170 pounds, and as every prospect is analyzed, and overanalyzed, not surprisingly, DeVonta's weight became a big topic of discussion often throughout the draft process. I don't think it's a big deal honestly, as NFL coaches will obviously know about this, and not only will they, and protect isn't the right word here, but they won't willingly say, alright DeVonta, and this is assuming the Giants would draft him here, DeVonta, we're sending you on a short screen towards the middle of the field, which is where Chase Young is, good luck, try and make a miss. That's not only not going to happen, but him being 170 isn't a huge deal when his production was what it was. The reason for his absurd production is because nobody can get a hand on him. You think with a receiver that's 170 pounds, alright, snap the fingers, press, just take him out of the game. But he's that quick and slippery off the line, and it shows with tape. His NFL comparison is really tough because, simply put, there's not a lot of players that are built the way he is and move the way he does. One that comes to mind is Hall of Famer Marvin Harrison, because Marvin, like Smitty, was extremely quick and undersized at 6 foot, 180 pounds, and moved insanely fast the exact same way DeVonta does. I like that comp for his game, but I also like Stefon Diggs, as Diggs' route running is uncanny, and it is pretty much the same with Smith. Both players use their strength of route running to create separation and a big pocket for their quarterbacks to throw the ball in, and time again it shows up on tape. Whichever team drafts DeVonta Smith should be very happy with this selection and should get a very productive receiver from day one. Next is DeVonta's teammate, or I guess at this point former teammate, and that is of course Jalen Waddle. Jalen wasn't as productive or really anywhere as close to as productive as DeVonta was during his time at Alabama, but he made some serious impressions nonetheless. He is officially listed at 5'9", 180, and 11 of his 20 career touchdowns went for 50 plus yards. I can't even begin to describe how explosive Waddle is on tape, and it shows in these set plays. And with a player that is 5'9", 180 and this explosive on tape, the comp is, and whether this is fair to Jalen or not, we'll find out soon enough, but his pro player comparison is Tyree Kill. Jalen is a great route runner for his size, as he routinely alters speeds to get to where he needs to go accordingly. There's very few negative things about his game, as when you look at the scouting report for Waddle, the negatives are few and far between, and you could say the same thing regarding Tyree Kill's game right now. Jalen is projected as a top 10 pick, and I would imagine the furthest he falls on draft night is pick 11 to the New York Football Giants. Waddle has game-breaking speed, and putting him in an offense with Saquon Barkley, Sterling Shepard, Darius Slayton, and Evan Ingram would really stress defenses out. Home run speed certainly describes Waddle, and this is brief, but has there ever been a player whose last name describes their game in the complete opposite way of how they play? Because Jalen Waddle certainly does not waddle. I'd imagine an offensive lineman at some point had to have the last name of Small, but anyways, enough of this. If you think of someone, please comment though. But anyways, we are moving on to Jamar Chase and his NFL pro player comparison. And last but certainly not least is Jamar Chase. Now, Jamar is an elite prospect and is expected to be off the board in absolute worst case by pick number 6. He is and has been viewed by NFL teams for years now as a franchise cornerstone for whichever team drafts him. I've discussed Jamar a little bit on the channel previously, but I'm going to say this. He is the real deal, and the hype is certainly warranted. He is a better prospect, speaking from a year ago, than Justin Jefferson was, and Justin Jefferson had one of the best rookie receiving seasons of all time. Jamar is a better prospect than he was, and he does it all. He, like Rashad Bateman, plays a lot bigger than what he is listed at, as Jamar is 6 foot tall, 200 pounds, with surprisingly short 30-inch arms. Now, not the biggest guy in the world by any means, but he can move. His draft comparison is tough because he plays bigger than he is, but he is also extremely quick, and it shows with his burst and acceleration. Jamar's ability to take it up a notch when he needs to is uncanny, and it's something very few guys have the ability to do. And for that reason, I do think his best pro player comparison is former LSU Tiger Odell Beckham Jr. Both guys have the ability to make tough contested catches, both guys have another burst in acceleration, and both guys have magnets for hands. Now, Odo hasn't been the same player he was between 2014 through 16 for a little while now, so to be clear, we are comparing Jamar to a young OBJ, but the hype around Jamar is real, and he will soon make a franchise, presumably be either the Bengals or Dolphins more than likely. Very happy with the investment of a top 10 first round pick. And with that being said, that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel. It would mean the world. We are closing in on 25,000 subscribers, and I will see you guys next time. Until then, have a great day. Love you guys. Deuces. Peace.